Hello and welcome, my name is Retro, and today I will be doing a video that I have wanted to do for a very long time now, and that is a guide to arbitrations. Now this isn't going to be some like meta Kuva arbitration grind or anything like that. This is a guide for people who are relatively newer to the game, haven't really done Steel Path arbitrations yet, and basically I'm going to go through all that is involved with arbitrations, the very basicness of it, and why you absolutely need to do it. And the reason why I wanted to make this video for so long is because I've noticed a trend, at least in my circles, where no one really talks or cares about arbitrations, at least outside of like meta Kuva farms, and most new players kind of just grind to Steel Path as fast as possible. But arbitrations are extremely important. They are extremely relevant content as they offer the best, or one of the best, more casual endo farms in the game. The best being Sender. They also offer the best Kuva farm in the game, but only with an optimized 4-person squad. But the reason why they're so important for someone who's just going into Steel Path is because they give the best weapon mods in the entire game and two absolutely crucial survivability mods in the game. And it's also how you get Grendel as well. So there's a lot of reasons why you'd want to do arbitrations. So let's get into it. What are arbitrations? How do you do them? All the fun stuff. So arbitrations are an elite form of endless mission. So any endless mission can be an arbitration, even some of the less common ones like Infested Salvage and, I hesitate to say, Defection. But the catch is that they are slightly modified with the intention of making them a bit harder. First of all, the levels of enemies you'll find in arbitrations is around levels 60 to 80, which compared to Steel Path is on the lower end, so nothing too crazy. But there are additional modifiers that might make arbitrations a bit more difficult, especially for newer players to deal with. Once you get a bit more into the game, they're really easy to do, just like everything else in the game. But for a newer player, you might have a bit of trouble with arbitrations, depending on where you're at and what kind of stuff you have. These modifiers include, in arbitrations, when you die, you don't enter a bleed out stage, you simply just die immediately, and you cannot revive yourself. However, your teammates can revive you. There is a unique enemy type that is only spawns in arbitration missions, and whenever there is a downed player, they have a chance to drop a specific item, and if your teammates manage to pick up 5 of these items, they will revive you by bringing them to your dead body. And in addition to this, each individual in this mission also has some additional modifications to make it a bit harder. For example, excavators take longer to actually finish, and you also need to do 2 excavations per rotation. Life support capsules in survival are only worth 25% of their normal value. Enemy towers and interception will be captured twice as fast. In defense, you protect an NPC instead of the normal defense target that can run around and you have to like follow them and pay attention to where they're going. This works the same as the Archon Hunt defense if you've done that. Defection, again, I hesitate to say. Rescue targets can't be revived, but also never play this ever because it's defection. And then in Infested Salvage, the consoles cannot be healed, but they do have 15 times the health they normally do to make up for it. And lastly, in Disruption, demo units show up at a smaller distance. Normally, you'll see them when they're 30 meters away. They'll have like the flashy icon telling you where they're coming from and all that fun stuff. In arbitrations, they only show up within 15 meters away. So they're just harder to detect. In addition to this, there is that unique kind of enemy that I previously brought up. They basically function like a shield drone, except like the Corpus shield drone, except the difference is instead of just giving enemies shields, they make them completely immune to damage. So any enemy that is tethered to this shield drone, the arbitration drone, cannot die at all. They're impossible to die. What's more is that the drones themselves also have a shield gate mechanic, meaning you can't one-shot them. However, when the shield drones do die, they cause an explosion that does quite a substantial amount of damage. So they normally the explosion of the shield drone is enough to kill all the enemies that they are tethered to as well. Now, according to the wiki, the way you unlock arbitrations is by completing the Ares Junction. And I say according to the wiki because back in my day, you needed to complete the star chart to unlock arbitrations, just like Steel Path. So this is news to me that the new requirement is to just do the Ares Junction, and I don't know if that's true or not. I have no way of knowing if it's true or not because I can't obviously go back in time and test that. But I'm going to trust the wiki and say once you complete the Ares Junction, you'll be able to unlock arbitrations. Maybe that means you have to complete the Ares Junction and then do the star chart, but I don't know. But once you have unlocked arbitrations, you will be able to go into your alert sections in the start chart, so right here, and the very first one that pops up will be arbitrations. And each hour they rotate to see which arbitration mission they'll do. So right now it's interception. Once you've done the mission, you can't go and redo it again, but it will reset within the hour. And you may notice some important additional details, being that when you go to do an arbitration, it will select one random Warframe that will get a set amount of buffs if you choose to play them in the mission, and this can be a Warframe that you don't have, and it will also give a set of weapons that will also get buffs if you choose to use them in the missions. This is the exact same system as Archon Hunts. In fact, Archon Hunts stole the system from Arbitrations, as Arbitrations came before Archon Hunts. Anyway, besides those additional modifiers, they play basically exactly the same as any endless mission. You go in, you can team up with friends, go in public, whatever, solo even, and you play the same as endless missions. But why do you want to do arbitrations? Well, first of all, let's actually go over what their reward pool is for arbitrations. And the reason why I say this is because arbitrations is the only way you can access to a massive set of things, which are going to be very helpful into late game. And this is why I would strongly argue that arbitrations is the end of the mid game. So before you go into Still Path, Archon Hunts, Necrocells, EDA or ETA, you need to do arbitrations because they will give you access to a lot of mods and a lot of useful things that will make going into the late game content significantly easier, and trying to skip over arbitrations will give you a lot of issue. And whenever you look up a build, I promise you, every single build that has ever been made, except for specific niche circumstances like Eidolons or Prophet Taker, use a mod that comes from arbitrations. I promise you. And I can almost guarantee that every single build that has been shown on my channel, both Warframe and weapon builds, use a mod that come from arbitrations. So you definitely need to do arbitrations, and you definitely want to do them before you enter the late game content. And this is why I say it is like the end of the mid game. And if you can't comfortably do arbitrations, then you're gonna have a hard time in even Still Path, because Still Path is significantly harder enemies. The weakest enemies in Still Path are level 100, and they get other buffs to make them stronger. And arbitrations only goes up to level 80. So if you can't do arbitrations, don't do Still Path. Do arbitrations first, then go to Still Path, and later on. Anyway, but yeah, so as I was saying before I went on that little side tangent, let's actually go over what rewards you get from arbitrations. And before we do that, we have to understand how the rotation system works in arbitrations. If you don't know, the standard rotation system in every other endless mission follows a AABC and then repeat track. So it goes AABC, AABC, AABC infinitely. What does that mean? Well, pretty much every single mission has 3 sets of possible rewards you can get, and it's rotations A, B, and C. In the case of survival, you get a reward every 5 minutes. So in 5 minutes, you get one of the possible rotation A rewards. After 10 minutes, you get another possible A rotation reward. After 15, you get a possible rotation B reward. 20 minutes, you'll get one of the possible rotation C rewards. And at 25 minutes, you go back to A. So A, B, C. And this is the same for everything. After 3 waves in defense, A. 6 waves, A. 9 waves, B. 12 waves, C. 15 waves, A. And so forth and so forth and so forth. It's the same for everything except disruption, which we'll get to in a second. Arbitrations, however, work differently. Arbitrations doesn't follow the normal A, B, C. Instead, they go A, B, B, C, 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 and they will just keep going C forever and ever and ever and ever. So normally, again, with the example of survival, after 20 minutes, you will get your first chance at a rotation C reward. In arbitrations, however, you get your first chance for rotation C in 25 minutes because it goes A, B, B. There are 2 B rotations when there's normally only 1. But once you reach C, you will endlessly get C. It'll keep giving you C. So in 30 minutes in a normal survival mission, you would get rotation A. In arbitrations, it would be C. And 45 minutes, again, it would normally be rotation A in survival. In arbitrations, it will be C. And so forth and so forth. And it'll keep going like that. As I said, disruption works a little bit differently, and disruption works the same inside and outside of arbitrations. Basically, the way disruptions work is it's based off the round that you are on and also how many conduits that you are actually successfully completing within that round. For round 1, if you complete 1 to 3 conduits, you get rotation A. If you complete 4 conduits, you get rotation B. For round 2, if you complete 1 or 2 conduits, you get rotation A. If you complete 3 or 4, you get rotation B. For round 3, if you complete 1 conduit, you get rotation A. 2 or 3 conduits, you get rotation B. And all 4, you get rotation C. And then for round 4 and every other future round afterwards, if you complete 1 or 2 conduits, you get rotation B. And if you get 3 or 4 conduits, you get rotation C. And that continues on after every round after round 4. So Disruption works a bit differently from normal endless missions, and because of that, Arbitrations also use the same rotation system as Disruption, so it's not even more confusing than it needs to be. So now that you actually understand how the rotation reward system works for Arbitrations, what rewards do Arbitrations offer? Well, in all 4 rotations, you will get Endo, multiple different kinds of I-10 sculptures, which can then be converted into Endo, which is why Arbitrations are quite a good casual way to get Endo, but there are definitely better ways to get Endo. Arcanes, but admittedly they are bad Arcanes, and Omnia Fissures, and Arbitrations is one of the only 2 ways to get Omnia Fissures, the other one being Elite Temporal Archimedia, which is much harder content. In addition to this, in rotations A and B, you will also be able to get the mod Adaptation, which gives you 10% damage reduction to a specific damage type, stacking up to 9 times at max rank, giving you 90% damage type reduction to a damage type, and you can build it up to multiple damage types. This is a incredibly important mod to have for survivability, as it is easily the best mod to have for any tanking setup, with a few exceptions. And in rotations B and C, you also be able to drop Combat Discipline, which is a aura mod that is also very useful. It's on the more niche side of things compared to Arbitrations, but there are many builds that basically revolve around Combat Discipline, so it's definitely a mod you want to pick up. But yeah, so basically, even just covering the actual rotation rewards of Arbitrations themselves, you get one of the best survivability mods in the game, a great source of Endo, which you will really need, because before Arbitrations, you've likely not really had an issue with Endo, but Arbitrations is when you start getting really expensive mods to upgrade, and you're going to run into issues of not having enough Endo really fast. So Arbitrations is a very good way early on to get Endo, which you will need to max out all these new mods that you will be getting. And it also gives you a really good aura mod for that you need for specific builds as well. So and Omnia Fissures as well. So yeah, already there's a lot of reasons right there to go into why you want to do Arbitrations, but there's more. There is another system related to Arbitrations that offers even better rewards, which is really the real reason why you want to do Arbitrations. So after completing each round in Arbitrations, you will be rewarded with a unique resource called Vitus Essence that you can see right here. In addition to this, during each rotations A, B, and C, you will have the chance to gain additional Vitus Essence as a rotation reward. And the unique drones that make enemies immune to damage that you can find in Arbitrations also have a chance of dropping additional Vitus Essence when they die. What do you do with Vitus Essence? Well, Vitus Essence is a unique resource that you can use to buy unique items which are purchased from the Arbiters of Hex in any relay. So, for example, the relay right here on Earth. So, all you need to do is go to the Arbiters of Hex room in any relay, it doesn't matter which relay you want, and you want to talk to the person on the left. The person on the right will be the option to turn in modalities for Arbiters of Hex standing. Do note, you do not need standing with Arbiters of Hex to do this. You can have the negative standing with them, and it will not affect the arbitration Honor's store. So right here you can access the Arbiters of Honor's store, which gives you access to a lot of stuff. First of all, you can access all of the items that you can get from the actual rotation rewards as somewhat of a pity system. So that includes Adaptation. These are the Arcanes that I mentioned earlier. And you'll also be able to get Combat Discipline from here as well. You'll also be able to get a few other mods that can be really, really helpful, such as Preparation, which again is more on the niche side, but can be useful. Power Donation can also be useful in very niche builds, but not really that useful. Vigorous Swap, however, which is down here, can be useful. Again, more niche, but still can be very good on certain builds. And of course, most importantly, Rolling Guard, which is another must-have mod. Tied with Adaptation, it is the most important survivability mod in the game. Odds are, if you're not using Adaptation, you're using Rolling Guard. Again, there are circumstances where you wouldn't use either, but most of the time, 9 times out of 10, every build you have will be using one of these 2 mods. But in addition to Rolling Guard, you also have these 12 fancy mods right here. These are the Galvanized mods, and they are the best weapon mods in the entire game, and you need all 12 of them. So you'll be doing a lot of arbitrations, as each one of them costs 20 Vitus Essence to get, and maybe like a 30-minute round of arbitrations, depending on how optimized you're doing it, you might only get like 20, 30 Vitus Essence. So you'll be doing a lot of arbitrations, and these mods are also very expensive to rank up. So again, Arbitrations is good to get the Endo. And you need all 12 of these, because these are absolutely phenomenal mods, and I'm going to go through each one and what they do. First of all, there is 3 versions for each different type of weapon. So you have the rifle ones, you have the pistols, you have the shotguns, and then you have the melees. For the rifle, pistol, and shotgun variations of the Galvanized mods, all 3 of their mods each do the exact same thing. It's just one's for pistols, one's for shotguns, one's for rifles, blah, 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 blah. And then the melee Galvanized mods are unique. Basically, what Galvanized mods do is they are versions of mods that already exist. For example, Galvanized Chamber, that is just a version of Split Chamber, that is the multi-shot rifle mod. So you can't have both, you can only have one, but it's just a better version of it, basically. Generally, they have a single buff, which is always the exact same as what the normal mod does, minus 10%. So Split Chamber offers 90% multi-shot, where Galvanized Chamber offers 80% multi-shot. But then they also have an additional buff that triggers off kills. In the case of Galvanized Chamber, as well as Galvanized Hell, and also Galvanized Diffusion, which is right here, which are the 3 different multi-shot ones, one for rifle, one for pistols, and one for shotguns, they will give the 80% multi-shot for the rifle ones, or 110% for Galvanized Hell and Galvanized Diffusion, and then on kill, they will give an additional 30% multi-shot for 20 seconds, stacking up to 5 times for Chamber, or 4 times for Diffusion and Hell, which works out for them, all 3 of them, to give a total multi-shot of 230, which is far better than any other multi-shot mod in the game. So already and multi-shot is easily the best stat in the entire game. So already these mods, these Galvanized mods, are proving to be absolutely amazing. And then you have the Gun CO mod. So you have Galvanized Aptitude, Galvanized Savvy, and also Galvanized Shot. What all 3 of these mods do is they offer a 80% status chance to their weapon, whether it be rifle, shotgun, or pistol. And their second effect is on kill. They will give you 40% direct damage per status type afflicted on the enemy for 20 seconds, stacking up to 2 times. So 80% per status effect on enemy. If you don't know what Condition Overload is, it's a melee mod that does that. It gives you 80% base damage for every unique status effect on an enemy. This is why these mods are referred to as Gun CO, because CO is the shorthand for Condition Overload, and Gun CO simply means it's Condition Overload for guns. So that's what, if you ever hear someone say Gun CO and you don't know what that means, we're talking about these 3 mods here. So they give status chance, and they give up to 80% damage to your shots per unique status effect, which can give you a big damage buff. A few things to note, however, though, is that this damage is not applied to AoE weapons. So if you're using an AoE weapon, then these mods aren't good for you. Also, these mods, the damage buff that these mods give, in theory, should be base damage, and they are most of the time. However, there are weapons where these mods give a multiplicative damage buff, which is significantly better and creates a massive damage buff to your weapon. So these mods are easily some of the best mods in the game, best damage mods in the game. Again, absolute must-have mods. You need them. Next, we have Galvanized Crosshair and the pistol is the pistol variation, and then Galvanized Scope is the rifle variation. I will get to the shotgun variation a bit. These ones are a bit more niche, and if you were to not get one of them, this would be the Galvanized mod I would recommend you not really focusing on as much. This is because the way it works is it gives you a 120% crit chance on headshot for 12 seconds, so you need to get a headshot to trigger the initial effect. And then its second effect is on headshot kill. You get an additional 40% crit chance, again for 12 seconds, stacking up to 4 times, which will give you a total of 320% crit chance, which is higher than any other crit chance mod for rifles and secondaries, so they are a very good source, but you need to be getting consistent headshots to actually make sure they apply. The crit chance will apply to non-headshot hits as well, as long as it's actually been triggered, but you need to make sure you are getting headshots. It is also important to note that this is not the variation of point strike or condition or critical delay or something like that, so you can have both this mod and those mods on the same weapon at the same time. The shotgun variation of this, however, is different. It's Galvanized Acceleration, and instead of giving the grit chance, it instead gives 30% projectile speed or beam length, and on kill it gives an extra 30% projectile speed or beam length for 10 seconds, stacking up to twice. Now, reading that, you might seem like this is a much worse version of these mods, but I actually think this is the better of the three. Basically, what this means is shotguns and like beam weapons that are counted as shotguns, like the Phantasma, will hit enemies from further away, which can be a very significant damage buff to shotguns. So this actually becomes a really, really good mod, and it doesn't have the issue of needing to get headshots like Galvanized Scope and Galvanized Crosshair, so it's a bit more flexible and usable in my eyes in that way. Moving on to the melee Galvanized mods, we have Galvanized Steel, which gives 110% crit chance. But the reason why this mod is really good is because it gives 30% crit damage on melee kill for 20 seconds, stacking up to 4 times, giving a total of 120% crit damage, which is much bigger than Organ Shatter. So it is easily the best melee crit damage mod in the game, at least one of the best that's easy to actually accomplish. So very, very, very good weapon mod to have. And again, this would be your priority for the melee Galvanized mods. Then we also have Galvanized Reflection, which is really good for heavy attack setups. It gives you 50% heavy attack efficiency, and on kill, it will give you additional 20% initial combo for 20 seconds, stacking on 4 times, which can give you a 5 times initial combo. So very, very good for heavy attack setups. And then Galvanized Elementalist, which is a bit more of an argument as to why you might want to get this beyond, because sometimes normal melee Elementalist might actually be better. Basically, the way it works, it is 80% status damage, and then on kill, it gets 30% status chance for 20 seconds, stacking up to 4 times, giving 120% total. Weeping Runes exists, which gives 440% status chance, so you'd only really want to use this if you're using a melee that doesn't run a lot of combo, which is rarer these days. This is why I say this is probably the one you'd want to get the least, but it can still be useful in certain circumstances, so it is still definitely worth to pick up. All 12 of these mods are absolutely amazing mods. You want 100% all of them. You'd want Steel first for the melees, and then Reflect and Elementalist are a bit more on the niche side. Reflect, you definitely want to have it if you're doing any heavy attack build though, and then you want to definitely prioritize all 3 of the multi-shot ones and all 3 of the Gun CO ones, as they are all absolutely amazing mods. You need them. Every single build uses them, so you need to have them, and it is the main reason why you do Arbitrations. Anyway, that is really it for this build. There's not a lot to talk about when it comes to Arbitrations itself, like how you actually play them. It's mostly just talking about the rewards that they offer, because that's kind of the argument, right? Like, you definitely want to focus Arbitrations before you go into the later game content. It gives you I can't stress this enough, it gives you such amazing mods. Every late game build uses the mods you get from Arbitrations. Like, I promise you, every late game build, every build you use outside of specific things like Eidolons and PT, use at least one of the Arbitration mods, whether it be Rolling Guard, Adaptation, or any of the Galvanized mods. I promise you. So you definitely need them. It's a great source of endo from a newer player to level up all of these extra mods you're getting. So yeah, definitely do Arbitrations before you start getting into Steel Path and all stuff like that, because it will make it a lot easier when you get these extremely powerful mods. And that's all I have to say. If you did enjoy this video and you thought it was helpful, maybe check out some of my other videos. I have a few other tutorial videos, but most of the videos I've made are build guides videos, so check them out if you're interested. And until next time, bye-bye!